In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this super awesome and simple birdhouse with only one $3 fence picket. Hey, it's Phil from Earth Nails and Tails, and today we're coming out of the garden and into the shop in order to build some really simple and affordable birdhouses. Even if you don't have a huge homestead or property like mine, who doesn't want to attract some beautiful birds to their property? I'm actually going to be building a ton of these to put all around my homestead because I want to try to attract some bluebirds to my property. Bluebirds are great because they're really good at managing pests and bugs, which I don't want eating all of my crops. So I'm hoping that after we build some of these today and install them around the homestead, we're going to have our own Air Force protecting our homestead. All you're going to need is some very basic tools for this project: a hammer, some nails, a drill, a driver, and a saw. That's all you need. And a $3 fence picket. This is a cedar dog ear fence picket. It's 6 feet long, and this honestly makes the perfect birdhouse. Who doesn't love a $3 project? And this is honestly perfect to do with the kids or just another indoor project for a rainy day with the family. And no, I don't have this design memorized, but what I did is make free design plans that you could find on my website, simple step-by-step instructions that complement this video. So if you want to go ahead and make this birdhouse after watching, just head over to our website and I'll put a link down in the description. I'm going to start off by making some measurements on my cedar fence picket. We're actually going to use the dog ear piece right here. So that's the piece that looks like a dog ear, which has these little notches cut out. We're going to use this to make the back of the birdhouse. So we want to make sure that we start with this end. And normally when I'm working on a woodworking project, what I would want to do is make a measurement and make a cut. So that way the cut is precise as possible, the piece is precise as possible. But when you're making a birdhouse like this, it doesn't really matter as much. One, because it's a birdhouse, we're not making a piece of furniture, but also it actually helps to have a little bit of gap in between each piece to help with ventilation. So what I'm going to do is just all of my measurements at once and then do all the cuts and we'll get everything assembled. So what I've done is made measurements at 1 foot, 20 inches, 28 inches, 36 inches, and then 42 and 1/8 inches. There's one more measurement I have to make, but in order to make it a little bit simpler, I'm just going to flip the board over and then we're going to measure in 5 3/4 inches for our last measurement. Now that we have all of our measurements, it's off to the saw. Now, if you don't have a miter saw like I do, don't sweat it. This project is simple enough where you'll only have to make a few cuts, and a normal handsaw will work just fine. But in order to speed up the process, I am going to use my miter saw. Safety first. And now I'm gonna, just kidding. Now I'm gonna make one cut at every single line. Let's do it. Remember to turn the board around for the last cut. There we go. So let's take a second to familiarize ourselves a little more with the individual pieces. So remember, the piece with the dog ear here, this is going to be the back, and the dog ear is going to face down. We have 3 8-inch long pieces. That's going to make the sides as well as the roof. We have the shortest piece, the smallest cut piece is going to be the front. This is where we're going to make our entrance hole. And then the last piece will be the bottom. This one we're going to save for last. In order to make the pitch of our roof face downward to shed water, we're actually going to have to cut the sides. Take 2 of the 3 of your 8-inch pieces and our tape measure and a pencil. What you're going to do is just measure 2 inches down and make a line. Now we're going to draw another line. You can even use the piece as a guide from that marking to the corner. And we're just going to use this line in order to cut this piece. So it should look like that. If you have a handsaw, all you have to do is follow this line. If you're using a miter saw, set your angle to 20 degrees. Put your 2 sides, one on top of the other, and try to get as close to that top corner as you can. now we have our two sides. Now that we've got all of the pieces cut, we're ready for assembly. And you're gonna need a few tools. I'm gonna be using some wood glue, and I've got this glue bot here. It makes it really easy to apply the glue. I got this on Amazon for less than 10 bucks, so I'll make sure I put the link down in the description if you wanna grab one for yourself. It's awesome. I'm also gonna be using some finishing nails, or at a minimum, you'll have to use some finishing nails and a hammer, but I'm actually gonna be using my brad nailer just to make the process go a little bit more quickly. When you're putting your nails into your project, don't hammer the nail straight in. Make sure you put it at an angle and alternate back and forth. What that's gonna do is lock the pieces together and you're not gonna be able to pull them apart. It just makes a stronger joint. Even though we're gluing it together, it really helps. So I'm gonna start by assembling the front to the sides. It's gonna make it easier to assemble the rest of the project. So I've just got my two side pieces right here. We're gonna take our front, and you can make sure that the pieces match by lining it up with the front, and it matches perfectly. So I'm gonna take my glue bot. We'll get this front piece on. And it's more important to line it up with the bottom here. So if there's a gap, we have ventilation on top. And remember, alternate back and forth your nails. Do the same thing for the other side. Now we have this rigid piece, which is going to make it a lot easier to put the back. So I'm going to flip this over so the back attachment pieces are facing up. We're going to apply a little glue. And for this piece, we want to make sure that this is close to the top as possible. Get that lined up, just wiggle it a little bit to get the glue set in, and then we'll turn it over and nail it together. And just like that, our birdhouse is taking shape. Now I'm gonna put on the top. Remember, we wanna save the bottom for last. So I've got this 8-inch piece here, and what we wanna do is align it so that way there is some overlap on the back as well as the front. So we don't have a lot of water getting inside of the birdhouse. You know, kind of just line it up. Make it look good the way that you like it. Awesome. It looks like a birdhouse. There's only one thing that's missing: the hole in the front. And the size of the hole completely depends on the variety of bird that you're looking to attract to your garden. For me, I want to attract bluebirds. So I'm going to make a hole that's 1.5 inches in diameter. And I've got a hole saw which makes this process really easy. This is the hole saw that I'm going to be using. It's by Milwaukee, the Hole Dozer. It comes with a whole kit, so if you're making holes a lot, it's a really good tool to have. This one I'm using, as I said, is 1.5 inches, but depending on the variety of bird that you want to attract, just do a little bit of research of what birds you want to attract to your area, because there's different types of birds. Even when I say bluebird, I'm on the eastern side of the US, so the type of bird, the variety of bird is going to be different than you could have on the West Coast. So make sure that you're just making the hole the right size for the type of bird that you want to attract. If you don't have tools like I do, but you've got a drill, I've got some information in the plans on exactly how to make this hole, so make sure you go and check them out. I'm gonna do my best to line this up so it's in the middle of the birdhouse, but also near the top. This looks like a pretty good spot. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you wanted to make it perfect, you can measure exactly where the center of the birdhouse is. Gosh, that's such a good tool. Made really easy work. The reason why I wanted to drill the hole first is because you might get some pieces that fall into the inside. So now that we've got that hole out of the way, the very last thing that we need to do is put on the bottom. But the reason why I save the bottom for last is because we want to be able to clean out the birdhouse. Maybe every year, maybe every 6 months, depending on when the birds leave the nest. But what we're going to do with this piece is drill some pilot holes and use some screws. So that way we could easily put this bottom on and take it off. The best way to install these screws, and make sure you're using exterior grade screws, that way they don't rust. But the best way to actually install them is to make what's called a pilot hole. We're using pretty thin wood, and we're going to be working near the edges of the piece of wood, which could easily cause it to crack. If you were to just take a drill and drive the screw into the wood, it could split, and then it's going to ruin your project, and it can cause it to rot a lot quicker, allow the elements to get inside the birdhouse. None of this we want. So what you want to do is take your drill and pick out a drill bit where the bit is no larger than the shaft of the screw. So that way the screw has something to grab onto still as you drill it in. Is just take my bottom piece and I'm gonna align this here so that way it's in a good position. And I'm gonna put 4 screws in here. So I'm just gonna do one near the corner here. One near the back. And then repeat for the other side. Now we can take our screws and just set them in these holes. And just like that, our $3 birdhouse is complete. So I assembled a couple more birdhouses and the kids had an awesome time just painting them and making them beautiful for the garden. I know that these are going to be even more attractive to the birds and they're just going to look great around the property. But as I said, this is a great project to do with your family. It's a very simple starter woodworking project. So if you've just been looking to start a new hobby or give yourself some more confidence to make a birdhouse or just something to put out in your garden, this is a great project to start with. So go out there, grab your tools, build a few birdhouses, and remember, there are plans, free plans linked in the description so you can easily reference it anytime you need and build as many birdhouses as you'd like. Again, my name is Phil from Earth Nails and Tails. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what else you want to see me make down in the comments, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.